Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome. My name, for those of you who don't know, is Darren Hartley. I'm Chief Exec of TAROE Trust. For those that this is first time, welcome. For those who are quite familiar with our webinar Wednesdays, then welcome back. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Blaise Lambert and Leah Eatwell from CCH, Confederation of Cooperative Housing. This has been quite a long awaited and much eagerly anticipated session, because I know lots of people have been asking us about details of the government's learning and development programme, which was even mentioned in the kind of the white paper. So it's been a few years in the offing. CCH have been successful in securing the contract with government to develop and run and operate the programme. So they have come today to talk all about the programme, which is extremely timely, because I understand from Blaise that the social media promotion for the programme went live only this morning at 8 o'clock, so very timely indeed. So we're really pleased that Blaise and Leah have agreed to come on today, which I'm sure it's a busy time as well for you. So a couple of housekeeping things before we head over. We're recording today's session, so for anybody who can't join in person today, welcome for joining afterwards on playback on our YouTube channel. We've got the usual chat function that will be available. So whilst everybody's going to be placed on mute, there'll be options to come in with questions either on chat or in person as we go through the presentation. There will be a presentation, so I'll take my camera off, but I'll be here in the background managing the chat function in the usual way. So we've got about an hour or so. If we reach a natural conclusion, that will kind of dictate the pace and the timing for today's session. But I think probably without further ado, I'll hand over now to Blaise and Leah. So Blaise and Leah, welcome. Thanks for joining us, and great to have you here today.
Thanks very much, Darren, and thanks for the kind invite. And I'm delighted that that TAROE and all of you here today will be the first organisation and groups of tenants and residents that will be speaking to about the programme following the pre-launch socials going live this morning. And we've enjoyed a very constructive and positive working partnership with TAROE over a period of 20 years now. That stretches right back to a previous incarnation of the tenant empowerment programme under a previous government in the early 2000s. So we've had a bit of a gap since 2010, waiting for this type of programme to come back online from government, and we're delighted to have secured the contract to be delivering this programme over the coming 2 years. The formal launch event for the programme will be the 19th of April. And again, I'd welcome anybody who's here attending today in attending the launch event, and look forward to not only with my colleague Leah giving you an oversight of what we'll be doing today, but taking any questions and comments and feedback that you may have. So without further ado, I'm just going to hand over to Leah briefly to introduce herself, and then we'll start the presentation.
Excellent. Hello, everybody. My name's Leah Eatwell, and I work I'm project managing this exciting programme. I work with CCH, and I have been involved with CCH for a few years, and I'm based in Bristol. My background is in community-led housing and social housing community projects. So I'm really excited to be talking to all of you, actual residents. You're my favourite people to talk to present this programme. And like was said earlier, it's just amazing timing, because we've been working really hard behind the scenes, and we've just published our first social media ad, our pre-launch ad today. So it really is perfect timing, and we'll be giving you links so that you can go and check out what we've been up to after this call. So I'll start this. I'm going to do the slides on my computer. So I'll just get that up now. There, can everybody see that okay?
That's great, Leah, we can see it all.
Perfect. Well, I will hand over to you, Blaise, to present the name. Start with the name is a good place to start.
Well, indeed. So I'm Blaise Lambert. I'm the Chief Executive of the Confederation of Cooperative Housing, and I first became a tenant in social housing in 1996 when I moved into a council flat in Holston in the London Borough of Brent. And back then, I never envisaged that I'd be sitting here today speaking about a major government programme aimed at all of the social housing sector and the just over 4 million households that there are that live in social housing. So I'm very proud personally and very proud for my organisation that we're in this position. So 4 million homes is what we're calling the programme, based on the fact that there is just over 4 million social housing households in England, and we're badging the programme as being about knowledge and action for change in social housing. I think we all appreciate, and I think government appreciates as well, as outlined in the white paper a couple of years ago, that there needs to be change in social housing. The status quo is not suitable for moving forward. There needs to be not only a change in the way that residents receive service, but also in the level of respect that they receive from landlords, and the way in which landlords interact with them and respond to their inquiries and problems. So very much the programme is about creating that environment and empowering residents to be able to call for that change and drive that change in social housing. Moving along. So yes, that's where we're here. So the organisation we're from, the Confederation of Cooperative Housing, we've been in existence since 1992. We are the UK's representative body for cooperative housing. Our smallest member's got one house with 4 people living in it. Our largest member has got many thousands of homes, and our member organisations come in all different shapes and sizes. What marks them out as different from other forms of social housing is that the residents that live in our member organisations also run those organisations. They are the board members, they are the governing body. There's not somebody else that's making decisions about their homes, unlike in other forms of social housing, where things are governed slightly differently. We are a federal member of Cooperatives UK, which is the trade body for the entire cooperative economy in the United Kingdom. We're a founder member of a joint venture called Community-Led Homes that's been doing a lot of exciting work over the last couple of years around the government's Community Housing Fund and community-led housing agenda. Why do we exist? Well, unsurprisingly, the primary reason that we exist is to represent our members' interests and to promote viable forms of cooperative, mutual and community-led housing, and try and spread the principles of residents being in control more broadly across the rest of the social housing sector, which is why we put in a tender for the government's resident empowerment programme in the first place, because we believe there are a lot of important lessons in terms of how residents influence and control services from organisations where they are in the driving seat that can be applied to other forms of social landlord, like local authorities and housing associations. We assist our member organisations, but also others, other forms of landlords as well, in enhancing their governance and to help them deliver excellent services to residents. And we provide networking opportunities in the same way that TAROE do with these sorts of events and conferences. We also provide networking opportunities for our 200 members and partners across the country. In addition to that, I also enjoy a couple of international roles that over time have opened up for me in the organisation. So for the last 7 years, I've been the treasurer of the global trade body for cooperative housing. Several million homes globally are within the membership of Cooperative Housing International, which is the sector body of the International Cooperative Alliance, which is a global trade body for the whole cooperative economy globally. 1 billion members, 2 billion people that buy the services and are supported by cooperatives globally. And I'm a board member of the International Cooperative Alliance as well, which I'm very pleased to have taken that position up from June of last year. So that's briefly who CCH is and a tiddly little bit about me. So if we move forward. So the 4 Million Homes programme, as Darren touched on, we're being funded by the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities until March of 2025 to develop and deliver a series of resident empowerment activities. And Leah will be speaking a little bit to the detail of those on coming slides. The programme launch event is the 19th of April. That will be a live stream online event. And as I say, it'd be great to see all or some of you at that. We are developing a resident training programme, 8 core modules for the training programme, which will be delivered at venues across England from May of 2023 through to the end of the programme in March of 2025. But also we'll be creating video versions of those training programmes as well, so that they'll be accessible to anybody who has access to the internet, really, to click and view in their own convenience. And this training will all be free for residents, whether they attend the training sessions at the venues or the online video. It will be free to view. We'll also be holding monthly webinars throughout the lifetime of the programme, starting with a webinar on damp and mould in May, and then a webinar on antisocial behaviour in June. And we'll be developing more subjects and topics, and again would welcome any feedback from yourselves and other residents about future topics for these webinars. But yes, those are the first 2 that we'll be doing, and we're looking forward to delivering those sessions through the course of the programme and get some great input from some great speakers and residents who will have speaking at those events as well, to make sure that the voice of residents is heard through those events and other activities. Am I handing over to you now, Leah?
Yeah, I can take over, and I just wanted to pick up on a couple of the comments. First of all, Colin, it's great to have you here as a committee member for Stop Social Housing Stigma Movement. I'll take this as an opportunity to apologise, because I've still got a message in my inbox. I need to get back to you. We're hoping to arrange a meeting with yourselves soon, because we're really interested to hear from you, because someone's asking about how do we tackle the stigma regarding social housing, and I think you will agree it's not an easy topic. So it's a conversation that we'll be having ongoingly throughout this programme. But if we carry on and present what else we're doing with the programme, and then we can loop back maybe to how exactly that we hope that will be tackling, or start to tackle stigma, or continue to tackle stigma, because I'm sure you're all already doing some great work to answer that question. Also, thanks, James T. You've already booked tickets for the 19th. I think you might be the first person to book onto a launch from outside of our team. So before we've even given instructions of how to do it. So well done. And I'll pick up on a few more comments as we go. So just coming back to the programme and the activities that Blaise already covered, everything that we're doing, the launch event, the programme. So we've got the trainings, the resident trainings, which will be face-to-face, and then we've got the webinars, which will be every month. We'll have a webinar on a different topic, which you'll be invited to attend. And we are also in the process of working on the website. So and the social media campaign. So the social media we want to use as an information giving tool. We really want the information about tenants and residents' rights to be available to everyone. And we recognize that different people have different levels of capacity and availability for learning and taking in information. So we want to have an entry level point on social media where you can look at a post for, you know, 5 seconds or a couple of minutes, watch a video and actually come away learning something. So that's our entry level point. And then from there, you can click forward onto the website. And from the website, there will be some basic information about residents' rights, about how to hold your landlord to account when needed, about how to take control of your housing, how to have more control, how to have your voice heard. These are all kind of the key topics that we want to cover in this program. And also on the website, you'll be able to book on. If you're then still really interested and want more, you'll be able to book on to events, face-to-face events and the webinars to come and engage with the other households. So the idea of the name 4 Million Homes, we really want to get across this idea of, you know, it's not a small group of people who are social housing residents in the UK. You know, it's a big community of people, and with a big community of people comes a strong voice and power. So that's really the kind of vibe that we're trying to get across with this program, which, I mean, I hope some people find it as exciting as I do, because I think it's really exciting. And so then we've created a resident sounding board, which is residents. So obviously, if we're working on a program that is aimed to educate and empower residents, we need to have a constant conversation with residents and hear what's important on the ground, and to help shape our content. And so when we are in conversations back with government and policymakers, that we can really be boosting residents' voices. I think that's another huge part of this program, is really making sure that residents' voices are heard. So there would also be opportunities potentially for anyone to join that resident sounding board if you're interested. We're kind of sending out surveys, just getting opinions from people, inviting people to engage with the program as much or as little as they like. So we could include something in the post presentation email if anyone's interested to get involved with that. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the comments. Disabled residents is something that we have, you know, that we're very aware of. It's one of the topics we really, this program, it needs to be accessible to everyone. And we put a lot of effort into checking our target audience, and our target audience is all residents. So we are aware in the social housing sector that it's not always very representative. You know, the people in leadership positions, the people with the loudest voices aren't always representative of the whole social housing sector. So we really want to encourage better representation, not only of disabilities, but, you know, other characteristics. So that's something we're really aware of and working towards. And so let me just say a little bit more about the 4 Million Homes training. So we are delivering 8 sessions in 8 different locations, but we've got 2 years rollout. So in the first year, we're going to be delivering the sessions in Birmingham, Leeds, Liverpool, and London. So if I don't know where everyone is from on the call here, but if any of you are in any of those areas, then you might want to look into if you would like to attend a training session. And then in the second year, we'll be doing trainings in Bristol, Newcastle, Nottingham, and London again. So I should have said South London and North London, just because we're kind of seeing them as different places. Probably that's quite, I wonder if there's anyone who would want to come in with any questions at this point, just about the training so far, about the program so far.
Can I just pick up on a comment from James T from Norwich? Yeah. I mean, clearly we can't take the face-to-face program to every single part of the country, and we've tried to focus the delivery of the face-to-face sessions where the large numbers of social housing residents are. But this is why we're creating online video, so that the program will be accessible to everybody in one format or another. If the government had have given us 3 times as much money, I'd have gladly taken the training on a complete UK tour, but we are rather constrained by the limited budget that government's made available in terms of how many sessions we can actually deliver and where. But I'm certainly aware that there will be some parts of the country where the sessions might not be immediately on their doorstep, so to say.
So I can see that there's James has got his hand up, and we've had quite a few other kind of comments and questions or quasi questions in here. Because James has got his hand up, he's obviously ready. Before I hand over to James, can I just say, I know there's quite a long post that was made by Deb, and I wonder if you'd be willing, Deb, whilst James is doing his bit, to come in next, just to ask or to make that sort of question stroke comment, which you start, should the approach have an issue, etc. So over to James first.
Good morning, Blaise and Leah.
Hello.
James Temple. I'm a resident of Broadland Housing Association here in East Anglia, and I live in Norwich. Social housing is national. So we're going from the Scottish borders to the Welsh borders, all the way down to Penzance. Would it be possible to do a session online? Many sessions like today are run online, and many residents find it easier because they don't have to travel to attend either on Microsoft Teams or on Zoom any formal training that you are providing. Thank you.
So firstly, I'll say that all of the webinars, all 24 of them, will be online events that will focus on topics, some of which will be picked up in part of the training, some of which may be an additional to the training. We will also be creating video versions of all the training programs for people to view online as well. But we're certainly happy to take a look at whether adding, some online delivery of some of the modules would be desirable to people. And certainly a lot of our training programs, both for our own membership but also for people working out in the field advising community housing programs, are delivered online and have been over the last 3 years quite successfully. So we'll happily look at that as an idea, and thanks for the suggestion, because really what we're trying to do with this program, and part of the strapline that I created when bidding for it, is empowering the many, not enabling the few. And we want to move away from an approach to resident involvement and resident participation, which enables a small number of people to have their voices heard and to learn and access resources, whilst not enabling the 4 million households. And that's very much part of the driver to the name as well. We're trying to, create as much as possible a program that can be as inclusive of as many people that live in social housing as possible. So thanks for the suggestion, and we'll certainly take that away and look at it.
You're muted, Darren.
So, thank you. I don't know if Deb's willing to come in and say a little bit about what she put in. Are you still there,
yeah,
Deb?
no probs. Yes. Great. Hi, Darren. I was going to add that I come at this from a different angle. I actually work for a housing association, having been a tenants association rep for a very large council estate in London that had a decant issue, so 900 dwellings. So I come at this from sort of all different angles. My fear is that you're right, that a number of housing associations have got what I would call, and excuse the word, sort of groups that they've almost groomed in order to do tenant participation, and that's not the voice that needs to be heard. And I'm wondering if, in order to get people to understand what's going on as regards tenants participation, that the message needs to go out. If you've got an issue in antisocial behaviour or someone smoking cannabis, actually introduce what's going on in the training by almost dangling the carrot of their specific issue and then saying, are you aware? Because I know from engagement with those that I support that they look for things that they are interested in and will probably ignore the bigger picture. So you're going to miss the fact that many of their voices are the ones that you want to be hearing, but you're going to miss because they just don't know how to link with the kinds of initiatives that are going to give them a voice in the future. So I wondered if that's something you might think about in your social media campaigns. The other thing is, we're talking about, you know, areas of very dense housing in many instances, and they're not communities because they've not been allowed to be communities. They don't have community halls that are actually used as community facilities anymore. They're hired out for nurseries, private companies, you know, when and if you can afford to pay for them. So we've got to actually get them to understand they are a community of people who share something and find that commonality to actually get them to react and respond. And I feel that that's often missing in this training. And I do feel as well that if there was a forum for those that do attend any training online, virtually, and some people are funded to travel, say, from Norwich and other people are not, but that forum, that link, that network can help with getting people involved in this. So those that can attend virtually, those that, you know, hear it sort of one step removed. But if we don't do that, this training is going to fall on those that are interested, and it's not going to reach the ears of those that need to be involved.
So thanks for that, Deb. I mean, there are a number of things there, and I'll try to pick through them one at a time. I think I absolutely recognise the issue around the training being picked up by a small number of people, which is why we're so intent on doing work that goes beyond just delivering classroom training here. I mean, you know, we're working on tiers of engagement here from social media through the website, through the webinars, through the training and other activities, but we're certainly not focusing all of the program's activities just on the training sessions and the couple of thousand people who may well access those sessions. And I very much recognise the picture that you're talking about how some landlords hand select which residents, and quite often the residents that are deemed to be acceptable and whose views are deemed to be acceptable, to sit on their scrutiny and other panels and functions. And you know, I very much recognise that. In terms of community, I spent a number of years living in a housing association property after I moved off the local authority estate, in a street with 6 different housing associations owning property in it, and the local authority. And because of where it was in Kensal Green, we had 4 local authorities' boundaries all sort of butting up against each other: Hammersmith and Fulham, Westminster, Brent and Barnet. There was no sense of joined up management or community and neighbourhood empowerment there across all of those landlords. And very much, you know, the sector has to change considerably. And you know, I hope that this programme is part of the catalyst for change that is necessary. Certainly we will be creating forums for people that attend the sessions, the webinars and other activities to continue to interface with each other, and we do that through our existing training programmes as well, and we'd very much look to continue to do that with this programme, to create as many opportunities for residents to network with each other and share experience. But you know, I think I'd be kidding everybody along if I sat here and pretended that this is really easy and it's going to be a walk in the park to change everything. And quite frankly, you know, if the status quo were working, this program wouldn't exist. So absolutely, I recognise a number of the issues that you've brought up there, Deb, and I would also say, you know, in terms of the particular issue thing, it's very much part of the thinking that we've had in creating the social media posts and future campaigning activity around that, to very much hang a lot of that on particular issues. Like if you look at the posts that have gone out this morning, damp and mold and antisocial behaviour are the issues that we focused on, and particularly the sort of the dripping drip of the damp and mold and leak issue has featured in those posts this morning. We very much will be looking at promoting things from the perspective of, you know, what are the things that tenants and residents care about, what are the things that can go wrong, and you know, what can they do about it, what are the directions for recourse, what should their landlords be doing, and what can residents do if their landlords quite frankly just ignore their concerns, and how can we ensure that through what we're doing, it isn't just the voices of as I say, the people that come to the training, or the people that are hand selected by particular landlords to be the resident representatives that are heard, but many, many more people. So yeah, I would hope that that you recognise within what we're doing moving forward that we're live to these sorts of issues, and that the programme is very much focused on that sort of breadth of engagement.
Thanks.
Yeah, and just to add quickly, Deb, I feel like you could have been in the design team meeting with your comment, because that is exactly what we've aimed to do with the specific problems leading to specific landing pages. And we're aware that some people might only do that. Like if you've got a leaking pipe, then you might just click on that and then, but we're hoping that then 4 Million Homes will kind of sit with people so that if they do ever get to a position where they have a bit more capacity or want to get involved, then we'll be there for them. But we're not expecting people to take up the full offer straight away. And then just quickly to respond about time to David, like time is important. Working families don't have time. As a working mum, I can say that that is definitely true. Time is so precious. And that's why we want to make sure that all of the resources are available in a very accessible way. So for example, the training sessions, which I'd like to come on to now, because I realize I've stopped the slideshow at a bit of a weird spot to talk about the different training sessions, because each of them then we're going to make into a 20 or 25-minute video that really distills the point and also index them so that people can, within a matter of seconds or minutes, find exactly the information that they need. So we want all the information to be available to everyone, but we also want the specific information that people need, if that's all they've got time for, to be easily findable. If that makes sense, that feels really important to us. So then if I just click to the next slide, and then we can come back for some more questions, if that's okay. Blaise, would you like to run through the 8 sessions that the accredited training will cover?
Okay, thanks,
And
Leah.
say a little bit about accreditation. That was an earlier question as well, please.
Yeah, so we've been running accredited training programs in partnership with the Chartered Institute of Housing for nearly 20 years. The first such program that we created was part of the Chartered Institute's Active Learning for Residents program back in the early 2000s. And we are in discussions with the Chartered Institute of how to extend our current relationship with them as part of their recognised program of training and activities to cover this program as well. So we'll be saying a little bit more down the line once we firm the details up on exactly how that will work. But certainly the training will be accredited, and there will be certification for people both that attend in the classroom settings, but also people that are viewing and accessing the training videos when they're launched later in the year. So the program sort of runs from a sort of start to finish perspective, and people will be able to attend one of the sessions, a number of the sessions, or all of the sessions if they want. In the same way, people can view when we publish it, the online video, as Leah says, you could just click to a particular 30-second section that's just about a key point that's of interest to you, or you could view a whole module in terms of the video, or the whole program. So the program opens up, and the first sessions will be taking place in May. And they will be on the opening session, which is around resident rights and how residents go about getting their voices heard by landlords. Then we'll have a session that focuses on equality, diversity and inclusion issues. How do we ensure that resident engagement processes and structures are as inclusive as they can be? How do we ensure that we don't end up with landlords just speaking to particular parts of the population, or people with particular characteristics, or people with particular views? How do we ensure that there's a breadth of diversity of voices being heard? Thirdly, what do resident panels exist for? And I take it that a number of you will be aware that landlords, as part of the tenant involvement and empowerment standard, are required to have some form of resident panels to be involved in shaping services, defining how services are delivered by landlords, scrutinising and overseeing landlord performance. And I think very much when the tenant satisfaction measures start getting published next year, resident panels and residents more broadly will be armed with a new range of indicators and information about what their landlord's doing and how good it is and how good relative to others it is. Fourthly, how to set up and engage with residents associations. Some people will be long experienced in setting up and engaging in a residents association and may well have been one for 20 or 30 years. Some other people will have never heard of them or never been involved in one, or might want to set a new one up. So that session very much looking at how people engage with that form of resident involvement structure. The fifth session will look in detail at what precisely are landlords' legal responsibilities to their residents and for the homes and estates that they own and manage. Then number 6, we'll look at what are the requirements of the regulatory framework. What does the regulator of social housing require? Now, this is a session that is going to change quite significantly from the first draft that we've written of it to what will actually be delivered in January of next year, which is when we'll run this session, although the video for it will be out in December, because of course the government's changes around the regulatory framework through the Social Housing Regulation Bill are only just going through now. So this will be an area that will change and develop, but we'll be launching that session right at the time that everyone has much more clarity around what the new regulatory requirements are going to be. Number 7, we'll look at how are landlords funded and financed. You know, what do they do with the money that we pay with them? You know, where does it go to? What does it get spent on? How do they access money to build new homes, and what pays for new homes being built? Because it isn't all grant funding, some of it's debt finance, and what pays that debt finance? And then number 8, for those that are interested in moving further into taking some direct form of control over their homes, and again remembering that the tenant involvement and empowerment standard requires landlords to give residents options around the management of services. They don't all do that, but they're supposed to be. What are those options for community control, and how do people exercise those rights? And where does the funding come from to pay for residents to exercise more control over how their homes and neighbourhoods are managed? So they're the headline titles, if you like, for the training sessions, and we hope they are covering a range of areas and topics that will be of interest to residents in terms of information and empowerment through the programme. So before we come on to talk about what can you do in terms of this programme, are there any other questions or comments that anybody's got about the basic content of what we're seeking to do with the programme and the training sessions?
I can see Blaze just in the chat as we've been going through. There was some mention there about maybe communications, both communications of the programme, but also communications in terms of landlord communications, and maybe something about the importance of getting that right. It might be something to build in mind. We've also had some question about, although there's the 8 kind of venue-based sessions in Birmingham and Liverpool and Bristol and so forth, was a question is, could you be out of area but still attend them? And I think the likely answer is yes, though there might be sort of costs associated. Is that right?
That's an absolute yes. I mean, we're obviously basing the sessions really close to public transport nodes in those major cities, so that they're as easy as they can be for people to get to them by public transport. But very much that the Liverpool sessions, for example, are not just for people with a Liverpool postcode. They are for people in the Northwest region, and similarly Birmingham, etc., etc. So very much, you know, we want people to in the surrounding areas to be able to access those sessions as well. And communications is really important. You know, getting the message out there about this programme, its existence, what it's seeking to do. We've been engaging with a number of partner organisations to ensure that the programme is as widely publicised to residents, but also to landlords as well. We are hoping to get some very supportive messages from the National Housing Federation, the Association of Retained Council Housing, and the Chartered Institute of Housing for the launch event, sending that message out to landlord members of their bodies that this programme really matters. and that they need to positively engage to better involve and better hear what their residents are saying to them. I've noted some of the comments about the regulator. I mean, I think it's a well-known fact that since 2010 and the bonfire of the Quangos that came in with the coalition government, that the powers of the regulator have been significantly pared back from where they were under the previous Tenant Services Authority and the Housing Corporation. And many of us in the resident end of the social housing sector have been pressing for a long while for proactive regulation of what the government calls the consumer standards, what the rest of us call the services we pay for. But time will tell whether the new powers and the new focus around consumer regulation will mean that the regulator will have more teeth relating to landlords that are providing poor services or not responding appropriately to their residents' concerns and wishes. But yeah, I'd certainly recognise that that a stronger, more effective regulator that better protects residents' interests moving forward would be something that many of us would welcome, and we'd certainly endorse that.
I think Blaise, just the other, just kind of like grouping some of the other themes that are coming through. It's clear that there's some feeling about the kind of, I think we would describe it in our terminology as an imbalance of power between the landlord and tenant. So certainly like the amount of responsibilities that might get shifted from, say, the landlord to the tenant, if that's not protected in legislation, for instance, as an example, or just about knowledge and information. So I think it's probably fair to say that one of the real sort of like target objectives of the program is by disseminating and making this knowledge and information more broadly available to a greater number of tenants. In a sense, that is part of readdressing that balance of power and making it a little bit more fair and equal. Would you agree with that?
Well, I'd certainly agree with that. I mean, you'd not be surprised that the representative body for landlords that are controlled and governed by their residents would not want to see a shift of power across the rest of the social housing sector, to have residents, you know, if not as in control as they are in cooperatives, certainly more in control than they are within some of the more mainstream social landlords, and very much that's why we're looking to democratize information through this program. The more that more people know what their rights are and have the tools, the information and the resources to more effectively challenge their landlords' activities and to look to take more control over what their landlord is doing and how it is providing services, the better. And as I say, you know, I would hope that doesn't come as a surprise that people coming from the cooperative end of the housing world would want to see more cooperatisation, shall we say, or more democratic control across the resident population. And as you know, as I've touched on beforehand, you know, I've spent time as a council tenant, I've spent time as a housing association tenant, and I've spent time as a housing co-op tenant. And I know the differences between the power balances that there are across those different types of social landlord.
Yeah, I think some comments there that also were about regulation. I think it's probably fair to say, obviously you've alluded to that in the fact that the regulation is due to change. There will be a national consultation that will have to take place over the summer, most likely, about the revised set of consumer standards, which will be brought in, and within that should include, for instance, what's currently known as the Tenant Involvement and Empowerment Standard, albeit that might be under a different name. I'd imagine you'll have to kind of lead into that as part of the content of your training as well, and sort of take account of all of that as those changes are enacted, which is no small challenge for you. I'm aware that Val's got a hand up, and then I'll let you carry on for questions. Val.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. Just a question for Blaise and Leah. You're saying about getting residents' voices heard and everything else, but I struggle because it's either a tick box exercise or it's lip service. They tell you what you want to hear, but nothing actually gets done about anything in general. Have you found that, or am I the only one that sees that happening?
I think that is one of the most important questions. It's something that we've discussed internally a lot. I don't have a wrapped up answer, unfortunately. Blaise, maybe you could speak to it, other than, you know, it's something that we're very aware of and are having conversations, especially through our advisory board, to different people in different positions within the social housing sector, of how when we're gathering, because I mean, throughout this program, I'm going to be attending lots of the events, and a big aim of mine is we'll be gathering this resident's voice and hearing from people. And then a big consideration is where do we take that? Exactly what you're asking. So I'm going to hand over to Blaise to answer that question.
Well, firstly, just in terms of what Darren was touching, I mean, one of the things that we see as an important role of the resident sounding board that we're putting together, we've already put together, but we're looking for any resident that wants to join that. And the more residents that join that, the bigger a voice it is and the stronger a voice it is, that we can then reflect those opinions through to government to influence national policy. And I see that as being, you know, one of the legacy components of this program is genuinely building a real national tenant voice, which again, ourselves and TAROE and partners sought to do a number of years ago. And there really is the need for a way for us to gather together the voices of as many of the 4 million households in this country as we can do into a single voice. You know, as individuals, as you touch on, Val, an individual responding to a consultation exercise that their landlord's doing is just one person's voice. 4 million voices together, or as many of those as we can gather together in a strong lobby, I think has the potential to be much more effective than all of us being separated into silos of individuals, essentially. But certainly, to pick up on your point more broadly, there are some really good landlords out there that do resident engagement really well. And there are some landlords at the other end of the extreme that don't do it at all. And it sounds from what you were saying as if your landlord is one of those towards the end of the spectrum that don't do very much, or do what they can do to give the impression that they're listening or that they're involving people. And you know, over time, you know, we have to hope that those landlords that don't perform in this area are pushed into taking action, and that's part of what the program is about giving people the information, the confidence, the techniques, the resources, the tools to be able to say to their landlords that aren't performing as well as some others, hey, you've got to up your game here. And also this is, you know, this is how we as residents are going to engage to ensure that those landlords up their games. But yes, certainly I recognise the patchy picture that there is across the country by different landlord type, and also within landlords you find that there's a patchy picture sometimes. I mean, some of the really big national housing associations that have got properties from the Scottish border down to the southwest in Cornwall, they will have certain parts of their structure with particular officers that may do this stuff really well, and in other parts of the country not so well. So there's a great deal of variation across the sector because the regulator has not had the powers to intervene in any of these areas around tenant empowerment, around the other consumer standards. It's almost said to landlords from time to time, well, it's almost as if this is a do it if you want to do it sort of thing, and if you don't, it's not at the top of the priority list. Hopefully that will change as the regulator gains new powers and has to treat these issues as seriously as it treats financial viability at the moment, for example. But we will have to see, and as I say, the stronger a voice that we can gather together demanding change in the sector, the more likely we are to pull those landlords that are more resistant in this area in the right direction.
Thank you.
Did you have anything more?
Yeah, I was just going to say that as a disabled resident with a social housing background. Well, I've been involved for 13 years, but I just think that disability is a forgotten thing because it affects every culture going in any resident. And I just think that's being put on the back burner when it comes to housing associations in getting their voices heard. And Darren knows me, I will go on and on and on about disability to get everyone's voices heard. But sometimes I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall.
Yeah.
But I will carry on going.
Val, I think it's good that you keep banging the drum on this one. Definitely need it. I think it's good to see, though. I think it was the second of the accredited sessions that Blaise highlighted was around equality, diversity, and inclusion as well. So it's good that the program looks to be capturing this, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
We're intentionally trying our best and open always for improvement. So feel free to keep being in touch with us. We want to hear from you.
And also, I would say, give us your feedback as the program rolls forward as well. If there are things you think we're off message on or we need to focus on more, tell us. We want this program not to be just set by us at the start and there it is, that's it, and it moves forward just the same through the 2 years. We need to be broadening what we're doing or picking up certain issues that maybe have not been top of our thoughts. Let us know. We need to hear this stuff. And as I say, please think about joining the resident sounding board and get your opinions across to us and also enable us to get those opinions across to people in some of the forums that we and Darren and others sit in regularly with the regulator and government. Should we push on to the final section then, the what can residents do bit?
Yeah, we'll come back to Jan. Where is that? Yes, thanks, Blaise.
Yes. Just 1 second. There we go. Okay, so what can residents do? What can you all do? So we're just highlighting the main ways of getting involved at the moment. So your household is one of the 4 million households in the social housing sector, and we want to make sure your voice is heard, as we've just been discussing. So the first thing that you can do is attend our launch event on the 19th of April at 3 p.m. So at the moment, there's the website, which we will put at the end. That's the end of the slideshow, and we'll be sending out after this session. And we've got a holding page there at the moment where you can click to sign up for the launch webinar, and everyone is very welcome. It's a free event. So that's the first thing we would invite you to do, is to come along. And then from the 19th, when we launch, the website will go live. So it's from that point, when you can access the website, that you'll be able to book in for training sessions and webinars. Our whole booking system goes live. There'll be much more information available then. So do come along on the 19th and have a look if there's anything that you would like to engage with further. And in the meantime, view the social media posts and share them. So we've got, let's see if I can remember the whole list: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. Maybe that's everything. But they're all linked in together. So again, on the holding page, there are buttons for each of those social media. So hopefully it's got something for everyone's flavor. And then, so you can also, on the holding page, you can sign up for the mailing list. So we'll be sending out information, so you can get more information about everything as we move forward. And like Blaise, like we've spoken about today, this is a live program. It's not something that's set. It will be evolving and developing as we go through. We want to have constant feedback loops from everywhere where we go, and then integrate that feedback so that we can grow and evolve with the sector, with residents' input, etc. You are welcome, like we spoke earlier, to join the resident sounding board, and there will be an invitation to that in our post email send out. And through all of those activities, we are planning to affect change in how landlords work. and affect how the social housing sector works. And I just wanted to pick up on another question, another comment, I think it was from Colin. I haven't got it up now, but from the how to tackle social housing stigma and how a group of 6 residents helped influence policy, because I think that that's an excellent case study, and I love to hear positive stories. And we really want to make this programme and, you know, all the social media hubs a vibrant place for people to come together and share. You know, there's a lot of sharing of the bits that don't go so well, but I love to inspire and show case studies of what really does go well, because I think that that's very energizing and valuable for the sector. So thanks for sharing that, Colin. Oops. So thanks so much, everyone, for listening. This is the website, 4millionhomes.org. And from there, like I've said, there's the holding page, and you can access the webinar, the mailing list, and all of our social media. So do go ahead and have a look there. Blaise, did you have any further comments?
No, thanks very much, Leah, and thanks everybody for listening to our presentation today. And we'll obviously take any further questions and comments that any of you have, and look forward to you engaging further in the programme, hopefully over the next 2 years and beyond as well. I mean, I think the thing is that you know, I would say that, you know, it's great that we're receiving this funding from government for a 2-year period, which allows us to do enhance the activities that we do. But again, you know, all of the national tenant organisations and many of you in other organisations locally, regionally and nationally, we're doing this stuff all the time. So it's not like we'll suddenly switch the switch off in 2 years' time because there's no more government money, maybe. But it certainly helps for the time being, and we're looking to make the maximum impact that we can do in terms of affecting change in the sector from this funding that we've got for the next 2 years. So as I say, take any further questions or comments that anybody else has got.
Brilliant, Blaise. I'm aware that Jan had her hand up earlier and was very polite when we needed to move on. So I wanted to go back to Jan just in case there was anything you wanted to raise specifically, Jan.
I just popped it in the chat, Darren.
Oh, right, sorry.
Okay, no worries. No worries at all. Thank you.
Right, okay, so last thing, just ask, I can't see any hands up, so I think it's been quite an interactive session anyway, hasn't it? So I think we've probably covered most of the things that people have wanted to raise as we've gone through. So we really, Mary?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
We can
Yes.
hear you loud and clear.
Oh, yeah. Oh, lovely. Yeah, well, I was going to type something in, but I thought as you had some time, I just wanted to say, as someone that has butted heads with my landlord quite a few times on on personal things and the democratisation of resident involvement, I've really felt empowered by what your presentation today. And I think I was going to put in something about the 4 million homes, you know, the campaign title. And I think that does almost take us beyond the stigmatization, doesn't it? It felt to me very empowering. It felt like saying, forget about all the things that have troubled us, the difficulties we've had. Let's just step onto this platform now and say that momentum is with us, is with the people that want to improve things. And I think, you know, I know people do struggle, but I think we've got to move beyond that now and say, yeah, this empowerment is here now, and it's up to us to sort of like encourage a more positive and assume a more positive and empowered dialogue with our landlords. And I think that will take us forward in a very big way. So I'm really pleased to have been able to attend today and hear what you said, because I think it could change that communication considerably. Thank you.
What an uplifting comment, Marion. I think it's probably a good place for us to bring things to a close, because that was really a positive note on which we can all feel enthused to move forward and hopefully be as supportive as possible as we can to make this programme a real success because if this program is a success, then tenants across, you know, the 4.whatever million tenants across the sector should benefit as well as a result of that. So we wish Blaise and Leah every success in the program. We'll look to help and support you as much as we can, and we thank you also for coming along today and on what is a big day of a kind of leading launch up to the 19th of April. Obviously, we'll include all of this information, how to get involved in the resident sounding board, and further information about it, the program in the post-event materials, which we will distribute. Just a couple of other sort of housekeeping things, just to let you know. The end of this week is the closing date for what was a very short consultation window for the department's direction to the regulator on mutual exchange and tenant involvement. We've published, even ahead of the closing date, our response to that on our website and on some social media. So if anyone wanted to go along to do that, there's also details in those posts of the consultation itself. So there's still time, but not very much, just a couple of days, if you wanted to submit a response individually to that. Thank you to those people that got in touch with us and fed into our sort of organizational response. We'd done a lead in our newsletter around that, so it was good to get some responses. I think the general feeling was that we need to be careful that there's not a watering down of the standards as a result of this. Potential movement to sort of lack of prescription, and that lack of prescription, I noticed earlier about the kind of reference to resident panels and so forth. I think we need to be careful that there's not a movement away, and that from some of the expectations that we've got in the current direction. So we've made those points clear in our response to that. The other thing to highlight is that we're going to have a bit of a break now for Easter, and then we'll be back towards the end of April. So our next webinar is we're going to be welcoming Sarah Davis back from CIH. Sarah's going to be talking about the next stage of the Better Social Housing Review. Some of you will probably be aware that NatFed and CIH commissioned an independent body to produce a report. That report was issued in December of last year. The next stage of that is about developing an action plan to state how they're going to implement some of the recommendations that came from that. So Sarah will be, by that point, that should be the action plan should be in the public domain. She'll be outlining what they are looking to deliver in response to that report. So I think that's everything for now. I wish everybody a great Easter. It's fast approaching around the corner, isn't it? So, and we'll look forward to welcoming you back to that next webinar then. Stay in touch, have a great Easter, and finally, once again, big thank you, Blaise and Leah, for coming and showcasing the programme. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Thanks so much, Darren, and thanks everyone. It was lovely to see you all here today.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.